In the world of Naruto, the rank of Jonin is reserved only for the most exceptional shinobi of each village. No one can reach this position easily without enduring countless harsh missions, gaining real combat experience, and proving themselves in both strength and intellect. They are the ones entrusted with A rank or even S rank missions, often facing the most dangerous enemies and at times commanding entire squads of ninja on the battlefield. Many among them have been considered for the position of Kage, and some eventually did rise to that title. Others, however, chose the opposite path, betraying their village, joining organizations like the Akatsuki, and leaving their mark with terrifying power. Because there are so many Jonin with different fates and paths, in this video we will only focus on those who remained Jonin throughout their careers or until the time they either defected from their village or passed away. We will prioritize those who never became Kage, since once they ascended to that position, they had already surpassed the limits of an ordinary Jonin and are no longer suitable for comparison within the same rank. From these criteria, we will revisit each of the great villages to determine who truly stood as the strongest Jonin each village has ever produced. And now, let's begin with the Hidden Leaf Village. Without a doubt, Konoha is the village that possesses the greatest number of powerful Jonin. In fact, you could easily make a separate top 10 list just for Konoha's strongest Jonin, given how many there are. Two names that stand out during their time as Jonin but cannot be counted here since they later became Hokage are Minato Namikaze and Kakashi Hatake. Minato, even in his youth, was already known as the Yellow Flash of the Leaf. He not only created the Rasengan, but also perfected the Flying Thunder God technique Hiraishin no Jutsu, turning it into an art of battle that made him nearly unbeatable on the field. During the Third Great Ninja War, Minato alone was enough to turn the tide of battle, striking fear into entire enemy armies at the mere mention of his name. With that level of talent, he quickly became one of Konoha's greatest heroes before rising to the title of Hokage. Similarly, Kakashi Hatake was a rare prodigy, achieving the rank of Jonin at a very young age. From the start, his abilities were extraordinary, graduating from the academy at the age of 5, becoming a Chunin at 6, and reaching Jonin only a few years later. He was once Minato's student, and later took part in many dangerous missions, eventually joining the Anbu and rising to the position of Anbu Captain, a role reserved only for the strongest and most trusted shinobi. After leaving Anbu, Kakashi returned as a Jonin and became the teacher of Team 7, where he trained names that would go down in history: Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Kakashi always embodied what it meant to be a true Jonin. But just like Minato, he cannot be included in this list since he later became Hokage. Beyond them, we cannot ignore the legendary Sannin Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. Long before they were given the title Sannin by Hanzo the Salamander, all three were already outstanding Jonin of Konoha. After that event, they became figures that surpassed the boundaries of ordinary Jonin, each reaching a unique level of power and influence that commanded respect across the entire ninja world. That is why, if we are to choose the single strongest Jonin of Konoha, restricted only to the time they still held the rank of Jonin, there can be no doubt. It is Might Guy, the man who elevated taijutsu to an unimaginable level. Guy was admired not only for his unbreakable spirit and determination, but also for his ultimate technique, the 8 Inner Gates. Throughout his entire life as a shinobi, Guy trained his body relentlessly, perfecting taijutsu until he himself became a living weapon. When opening the final gate, he showed the world a power capable of shaking the entire battlefield, standing face to face against Madara Uchiha in his Six Paths form, a foe who was nearly invincible. And what makes it even more remarkable is that, at that very moment, Guy was still only a Jonin of the Leaf. He never rose to any higher official position and retained the title of Jonin until the day he retired. For this reason, it can be said with confidence that even when compared to legendary Jonin who later became Hokage, like Minato or Kakashi, Might Guy still stands above them when unleashing the 8 Gates. Thus, the strongest Jonin in the history of Konoha is none other than Might Guy. However, alongside Guy, there are still other Jonin who deserve to be remembered. One of them is Shikaku Nara, who may not have been the strongest warrior, but was the strategic brain of the entire Leaf, serving as Jonin commander representing all Jonin before the Hokage and the Konoha Council. Another is Ibiki Morino, a Tokubetsu Jonin, a special class of Jonin with expertise in a particular field. For Ibiki, it was the dark art of interrogation and torture, which made him a figure feared by anyone who faced him. They may not have been the strongest in raw power, but their intellect and their roles within the shinobi system make them names that cannot be overlooked. Next, we move on to the Hidden Sand Village, a village that also has several Jonin with impressive abilities worthy of being included among the strongest. The first name to mention is Baki. Although he is not considered the strongest Jonin, Baki performed very well in the early part of Naruto. He was the one who led Sunagakure's elite genin trio Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro during the Chunin exams held in Konoha. Baki was not only experienced in command, but also acted as the village's representative in many important strategic events. He can be seen as a capable and reliable Jonin, even if not as individually outstanding as some of the others. Among Sunagakure's Jonin, Temari and Pakura are often compared, with much debate over who was truly stronger. Pakura was one of the rare shinobi to possess a Kage Genkai Scorch release, allowing her to unleash attacks of extreme heat capable of evaporating the water inside an opponent's body in an instant. Temari, on the other hand, was a specialist in wind release, wielding a giant battle fan to create wide-ranged, destructive gusts of wind. Even without a Kage Genkai, she once easily defeated Tenten, and later displayed her Jonin-level abilities in many battles, including those where she allied with the Leaf. However, when viewed as a whole, it is my perspective that Sasori was the strongest Jonin ever to serve Sunagakure. During the Third Great Ninja War, Sasori fought fiercely and earned the name Sasori of the Red Sand. At a very young age, he showed extraordinary talent in puppet technique Kugutsu and was personally trained by Lady Chiyo. Later, Sasori kidnapped the third Kazekage, turning him into one of his most powerful puppets. This act marked the turning point when Sasori became a Nukenin and left Sunagakure. After joining the Akatsuki, Sasori truly unleashed his terrifying power. But even before that, during his time as a Jonin of the Sand, Sasori had already proven himself to be a rare genius and very likely the strongest shinobi Sunagakure ever had below the rank of Kage. Of course, comparing Sasori before his defection, Temari at her peak, and Pakura in her prime would certainly spark a fascinating debate, with each person holding their own opinion. Additionally, Kankuro should not be overlooked, a skilled puppet user who served as an important asset in major battles. However, from an overall perspective, his strength still had certain limitations, and perhaps was not enough to place him among the top 3 strongest Jonin of the Sand. Next, we arrive at the Hidden Mist Village, a place notorious for its harshness, and one that has produced many powerful Jonin. Interestingly, quite a number of them eventually ended up becoming rogue ninja. The first case to mention is Zabuza Momochi. Although famous as one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, a group considered to be on par with Jonin, Zabuza was in fact officially recognized as a Jonin of the village. This means that, beyond carrying out missions with the swordsmen, he also undertook independent assignments as a regular Jonin. Furthermore, Zabuza once served as a member of the Anbu, before defecting from the village and becoming a Nukenin. While he may not have been the absolute strongest Jonin, he remains noteworthy for this unique career path from swordsman to covert operative to Jonin and ultimately to traitor. Aside from Zabuza, 2 other notable Jonin appeared during the events of Naruto Shippuden: Ao and Chojuro. Ao was a veteran sensory-type shinobi who possessed a Byakugan, taken from a member of the Hyuga clan. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Ao played an important role as the commander of the sensory division, while also directly participating in the allied shinobi forces' combat formations. Chojuro, meanwhile, was one of the younger 7 ninja swordsmen, inheriting the blade Hiramekure. Though initially timid and lacking in confidence, Chojuro later proved himself as a truly elite Jonin, and eventually rose to become the 6th Mizukage of the village. However, if one were to choose the single strongest Jonin to have ever served Kirigakure, the most deserving name would undoubtedly be Kisame Hoshigaki. Even before defecting and joining the Akatsuki, Kisame was already a high-ranking Jonin, trusted enough to be placed within the village's Cipher Division, a unit that required absolute loyalty and secrecy. At one point, he was ordered to eliminate all of his own comrades in order to protect state secrets, ensuring that interrogation specialists like Ibiki Morino could not extract information from them. Because of his iron will and overwhelming strength, Kisame was once a source of pride for the Hidden Mist. Though he later betrayed his village, if we only consider those who actually served as Jonin of Kirigakure, Kisame remains the strongest we have ever seen in action. It is also worth noting that certain figures like Yagura or Mei Terumi, despite later becoming Mizukage, were never clearly shown in the role of Jonin beforehand. Therefore, there is no solid basis to include them in this list. Now we move on to the Hidden Cloud Village, another village that has produced many Jonin who left a strong mark. Among them are names like Omoi and Si, 2 shinobi who served as close bodyguards of the Raikage during wartime. Both displayed impressive abilities, especially in combat support and chakra sensing. However, when it comes to the strongest Jonin ever shown in the anime and manga, one standout name that cannot be overlooked is Darui, the trusted right hand of the 4th Raikage. Darui was not only an elite Jonin, but also a commander of the village's forces, directly protecting the Raikage during the Fourth Great Ninja War. He clearly demonstrated his power when facing the infamous Kinkaku and Ginkaku brothers, men who once wreaked havoc using the Nine Tails chakra. In addition, Darui was one of the very few who could wield the treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths, while simultaneously using both water release and lightning release in combat. Even more remarkable, he possessed the unique ability to perform Black Lightning, a far stronger variant of ordinary lightning release. That said, Darui would later succeed the Raikage and become the fifth, which means he surpassed the rank of Jonin and therefore no longer falls within the scope of this list. The same case applies to the fourth Raikage A. In flashbacks, he was shown during his time as a Jonin, fighting alongside his father, the third Raikage. While it is certain that even at the Jonin level his strength was formidable, our criteria exclude those who later advanced to the position of Kage. Therefore, if we must choose the strongest Jonin of Iwagakure who retained that rank, in my view the most deserving name is Yugito Ni. She was not only the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, Matatabi, but also one of the very few who completely mastered the power of her tailed beast. Some of you may ask, why not Killer B when it's clear that Killer B is stronger? The answer lies in official databook information. Killer B did not hold the rank of Jonin. Instead, he served as the guardian of Iwagakure and acted as a special strategic advisor to the Raikage. Unlike regular Jonin, he did not frequently take on outside missions, focusing instead on defense and safeguarding the village's most critical secrets. By contrast, Yugito Ni was a Jonin-ranked Jinchuriki, regularly undertaking offensive and intelligence missions beyond Iwagakure. She was not only respected within the village, but also played an active role in its operations for many years, until her death during the Akatsuki's hunt for Jinchuriki. For this reason, even though she is not as widely known as Killer B, when judged by rank, battlefield role, and mission activity, Yugito Ni fully deserves the title of Iwagakure's strongest Jonin. And importantly, she also stands as the village's strongest female Jonin, one who fought and fell while still bearing the rank of Jonin. And finally, we move on to the Hidden Stone Village. The first two names that must be mentioned are Mu and Onoki. Both once held the rank of Jonin before becoming Tsuchikage. Mu had served as the bodyguard of the first Tsuchikage during a summit with the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. Later, both Mu and Onoki appeared as Jonin during a negotiation with Konoha, where they came face-to-face with Madara Uchiha, and in that encounter, they were completely overwhelmed by him. In addition, Iwagakure's two Jinchuriki Han and Roshi also held the rank of Jonin. In a manga flashback, we see Han and Roshi on a mission outside the village, where they directly clashed with Jiraiya, Minato, and their comrades. In that battle, both showed the impressive might of their tailed beasts, turning it into a memorable confrontation despite its brief appearance. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Iwagakure also contributed several other powerful Jonin. Among them was Kitsuchi, who displayed outstanding earth release techniques, manipulating large-scale terrain to shift the battlefield dynamically. Alongside him was Akatsuchi, the personal bodyguard of Tsuchikage Onoki, who skillfully manipulated chakra through unique earth release jutsu, providing crucial defensive and support roles for the front lines. And not to be overlooked is Kurotsuchi, Onoki's granddaughter. Before becoming the next Tsuchikage, she fought in the war as a Jonin, mastering the Kage Genkai lava release, proving her exceptional ability from a young age. However, from my perspective, the strongest Jonin to ever serve Iwagakure was a man who later betrayed the village, Deidara. Though details of his past are limited, it is known that he served as the leader of the Explosion Corps and commander of the village's commando unit. Even at the rank of Jonin, Deidara was recognized as one of the most gifted young shinobi, possessing the Kage Genkai explosion release, Bakutan, which allowed him to create devastatingly powerful blasts. Everything changed when Deidara stole one of the village's forbidden techniques, one that gave him mouths on his palms, enabling him to mold chakra-infused clay into living bombs. By combining this technique with Bakutan, Deidara created an entirely new shinobi art, the art of explosion. With it, he went on to battle Jinchuriki like Gaara, fight Sasuke Uchiha, and unleash large-scale techniques that struck fear into his enemies. After reaching the peak of his personal power, Deidara was branded a traitor and defected from Iwagakure. However, it cannot be denied that even during his time as a Jonin, he already possessed overwhelming combat ability, tactical ingenuity, and unique creativity. For this reason, in my view, Deidara stands as the strongest Jonin ever to emerge from the Hidden Stone Village Iwagakure. And that's my list of the strongest Jonin from each village, at least from my personal point of view. But what about you? Who would you choose? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.